Hey, so I'm still working on this shot, and a lot of pieces are coming together. Nathan Vegdahl's been doing some amazing stuff with the rigging and the animation. I obviously haven't got any of that in here yet, but yeah, and the background, actually, that big structure in the background, I'm gonna be making a tutorial on that because it came together really easily. Because you don't actually even really have to model details; you just have to give this kind of impressionistic feeling of details, and it's just the same few basic techniques over and over. So I'll be doing that soon. But let's be honest. As you look at this shot, there's only one thing that really catches your eye, and that is the sweet curvature of these ship hulls. Let's make a tutorial. So this is a boat, and it was surprisingly hard to model because it has all of these kind of complex curves in it. I like this ribbing here. That's procedural. It's just a wave texture combined with a Musgrave texture here, multiplied together. And going down and being this is sloppy, into a normal map. I have this set up so that every time you duplicate it, it's a different company and a different name here. I'll be releasing this as an asset soon. I'm just working on finishing up the superstructure here. But yeah, shapes like this, or the auto asset here, which doesn't look like it has good topology because it doesn't, but also because I have all of these shape keys affecting the geometry, like going from this to that and adding weird divots and things. And so this is just a big mess of a bunch of different shape keys pulling everything every which way. But I wanted to get into how to make kind of those more complex curved shapes like the outside of a spaceship or a car or something like that, because that's not always the easiest to do in a computer. So we've probably all been in a scenario where we've got a curve like this and we want to change the curvature, and so we're just selecting each point, trying to, you know, fix it so it all works the way we want it. And this can be doable, although it's kind of a big pain in the butt. However, if we have another curve going on at the same time, like this, and we're trying to fix it, make it so it all works, you know, on multiple axes, like by the time you get to the point where you're moving multiple points at once, it just gets really tricky to make everything work, and you end up just grabbing individual points. And so what we want to do is we want to be grabbing individual points as infrequently as possible. We want to be doing as much of it as we can with things like proportional editing, whoop, like that, or adding bevels where we can smooth things out without actually having to hand place every point. And so I'm just gonna, that's effectively it right there, what I just did. But I'm gonna get into a little bit more detail. Maybe we'll try to make like a basic car chassis or something like that. When I was starting out, I used to hand place every point, which means I'd have this, you know, this face right here, and I'd extrude it out. And here, let's see if we can make kind of a curve type shape. And I would eyeball it, and it was just always very frustrating. And even if I did pretty good, like this isn't bad. It is also isn't great. And if you're trying to do something precision like a car, it's not the way you want to go. So the way I do it now, just to get this out of the way right at the get-go, is I go to the start to the finish, and then I'll add one bevel right here. And let's add one here and here also. And now if I alt-click on this loop and pull it up, I can hit Control B and bevel it. I can scroll up and down, and I can pick how far I want the curve to extend, and I can do the same with this one. And this is a really nice way to create curves. It's also, if you want to make like power lines. Here, let's get a row of vertices. I'm just going to delete half of this plane here, and we've got this going on. And I'm going to give it a skin modifier so we can see what we're doing. Select all the vertices and hit Control A, scale it down so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to subdivide this. I could either right-click subdivide, and that adds a new point in the middle, or my habit is I just use Control R to add an edge loop, which does the exact same thing in this case. But now I can pull this down, and if I hit Control B, nothing happens, because to bevel an individual point, which this happens to be, you have to hit Control Shift B. But now look at that, you can really easily make a curve and tweak the way that it's all working. It's really nice. And just a quick aside, Control Shift B is really good for doing like two-dimensional bevels. Here, I'll show you. If you select an edge and hit Control B, you get to bevel this entire edge like this, which is really cool. But if you select one point and hit Control Shift B, you're doing just the corners. And like, let's say we select both of those. See, now it's coming from the other side, which is really cool and really useful also for doing two-dimensional flat stuff. Like Like, let's say this is a, I don't know, a hallway or a graphics screen or, you know, something like that. We select one point and hit Control-Shift-B. Look at that. We actually just curve just in 2D, which I didn't know you could do for the longest time. It also means you select everything and hit Control-Shift-B. Look at that. We can just do a lot of damage real quick. You can still scroll up and down to add additional geometry here. And if you don't like all that additional geometry, you can go into face selection mode and hit Control-X to dissolve all of the unused stuff to keep it nice and clean. I know I'm going kind of fast with all the hotkeys, but a lot of these are kind of basics. But just a quick refresher, Control-R adds an edge loop. Let's bring it up and hit Control-B to bevel this edge loop. And what you can see down at the bottom, there's a bunch of different things listed out. Pad, enter, left mouse button, escape. This is telling you all of these different things that you can actually do with the bevel. For example, you see P, profile. If we hit P, we can change what the profile is and change the curve like that, which is really handy, actually. Sometimes you can get a lot of bang for your buck by doing this, because it just lets you subdivide, you know, separate something into tiny little curves, which is good for doing like fun decorations or something like that. But here, let's do a more normal profile. And once you apply the bevel, this panel is normally collapsed down here, but it can be opened up, and you can tweak everything by hand like this. Changing the width type, width type is really handy, but we might get into that later. Anyways, okay, so modeling a car. Actually, no, let's do a ship's hull, because I think we can actually do one fairly easily if we keep it simple. Create a cube here. I'm gonna stretch it out into about the boat dimensions that I want. I'm going to add one edge loop here and another towards the back, so I can bring the front into that kind of basic bow shape, and maybe pull the back in a little bit too. In fact, I want to bring all of these bottom bits in so that the keel has that nice, you know, this is what boats look like. Still working really low poly. Let's add one more edge loop here, maybe pull it apart. Yeah, and maybe right down here we'll squeeze it together a little bit. And this is the bow of the ship. I kind of want it to have that curve to it. So let's see. I'll grab these and pull them like that. Yeah. Ooh, and normally the back of the ship has this kind of raised area like that for the rudder and the propeller and all of that. In fact, let's push this even further so that we get a nice example of a problem when I alt-click on this loop and hit Control-B to bevel, and you can see on the left that's looking pretty good, but on the right the bevel's going too far. It's going out of the geometry. We go to this panel here and we'll change it from offset to %, and now it will only just use the percentage of the available space, which keeps everything nice and clean like this. So I'm going to do that one. I'm going to grab this one and do the same thing here. Let's grab this loop, bevel that out. You can see it's still doing %, which I kind of like, but this is what it would look like with offset. You can just see it's not trying to expand to fill the whole space. So yeah, because we started low poly and we made everything work for ourselves nice and easy at the start, it's now really easy to do this final stage. In fact, we could take this and, you know, widen it a little bit in the middle and just smooth that all out with the bevel. One thing, if you want to make like a big overall change, like let's say we want to make the bow even steeper, we can turn on proportional editing here, which lets us grab one point, and if we scroll up or down, it changes the overall, you know, the radius of influence. So we could pull this out like this, tweak that, or like, let's do that, and we can pull this point in maybe. Same thing with like if we selected that point and that point, we could very easily just pull out that one bit here, which gives us this kind of, you get the idea. And since we're here, let's select all these top faces, hit I to inset, extrude it down. Here, let's create like a little, you know, little deck maybe. Extrude, I don't know. Oh yeah, actually we could do that. Let's grab all these and extrude them up. Yeah, we got, anyways, that's how you can make a boat. This would be very, very hard to place everything by hand, obviously. And then right click, shade smooth, and under the object data properties, normals, we check auto smooth. Or hit Shift Q, because I made a hotkey that does that a few videos back. Oh, it does everything. Oh, we actually did it. Speaking of proportional editing, it's a really, really useful way to work with curves. Like if you use this pull down right here, you can see a bunch of different curves are already listed. So let's subdivide this sail a bunch. And here, if we grab maybe that loop right there and turn on proportional editing, we can make it look like the wind is blowing it. But you can see right here, it's kind of weird because it's like, I don't know, that's just not really what sails look like. They should be ballooning out. And we could just scale up the influence so it, it does that. But we can also, let's try going to a sphere fall off. So now just it will, if we go to a top view here, you can see it'll just sphere off to the edges of our of the influence. And we can do another one right here. Let's just scale it so it covers the whole thing. And again, another shape that would have been very difficult to try to make by hand placing all of these vertices. But there's also always more than one way to do everything. So here, let's add an edge loop with Control R. Pull it out here, and Control B to bevel. Do another one on this axis. And look at that, that's basically the exact same thing right there. And now if you would like, you can stick around and I'm gonna model this truck right here. It's 87 degrees outside, which in Fahrenheit is pretty darn warm, and I'm in a tiny room with a computer, and so I am so hot. I babble quite a bit as I make this, but if you wanna hang around, here we go. And I didn't include it in the video because talking while working was making my brain explode, but I did go through and texture it, and I'm really happy with it. This is basically exactly what I was picturing. I also put it into the shot, only rendered a little bit of it, but I think it works pretty good in there. Anyways, yes, okay, let's go. Let's try to make some sort of like sci-fi truck, and I want it to feel very grounded, but I also want it to be kind of fantastical, because otherwise we could just go on, Blend Swap or CG Trader or Sketchfab or something and just get a truck, which probably would still be a smarter idea, except that I need something to make a tutorial about. So here's our placeholder dude for scale. My idea of how big everything is was set in childhood when I was very small, so I still think of cars and stuff as being, bigger than me, because otherwise how do we fit in them? But actually, they're kind of small. Like, you can usually see across the top of a car. I might kind of keep it something like this, just so that the eye line is just about the same height. And we'll see how this goes. My thought is I'll have a cab type thing here, and then there'll also be like a truck bed that I want to wrap all the way around, actually. Something like that. So it's just a one-person cab, and the truck bed does this 3/4 wraparound thing, which I think could be kind of interesting. I want it to feel like kind of a classic truck. So, yeah, this sort of thing with maybe this sort of slatted back. Maybe get a little bit of wood or something in there. So just looking around, it looks like, yeah, just having nice curves. Honestly, this is perfect. We can model this stuff super easy because it's just cubes with a nice solid bevel on it. Again, when you're modeling a vehicle, it's the balance. It's always about the balance of the big shapes with the tiny little details interspersing them, and nailing that balance is kind of the important bit for making the car feel real. Yeah, the patterns I'm seeing over and over is kind of there's the wheels have their own piece, the hood has its own piece, the windshield is flat, there's a large grille, and the headlights are round. And if we do all of that, I think we're going to really be able to capture this aesthetic. So let's jump on over and see if we can do it. So I was just going to have it kind of be stubby like this, but so much of the look of all these trucks is that hood that sticks out that I think I want to fit that in there. Do I just want it in the front, or do I want it to... I might try to get a little bit bigger here. Like, let's just kind of have it be wrap around. This is always scary doing a video like this when I don't totally know what I'm doing, but we've got enough fun ideas kind of coming into play that I think it'll kind of come together. One thing, how do people get in and out of the truck? Because I wanted to have it go like this so the wheel well could be here, but then I guess I could just do this. Maybe they just step up onto there. That could work. Okay. Maybe I'll even build in a step, and this will just be where the door is. Yeah, that could work. And here, let's I like the process of figuring out how this would all actually kind of work. So this right here would be the door. This will be sloped so that there's a window right here. This will be okay. Yeah, let's just start. Let's start doing all of our beveling. I think I'm gonna select all of the edges here right off the bat that I want to curve, or that I want to, you know, smooth out. So I've got those. Control B to bevel. Scroll up here, and that feels okay. Actually, let's raise the window here, and let's just have one more piece kind of sticking out like that. I think this feels right to me. Yeah, now we do the same thing. Select all the edges we want to curve. Maybe, actually, here, let's add an edge loop here. I'm going to select this, turn on proportional editing, and pull it up to kind of just curve the whole thing just a tad. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Screencast keys. Sorry about that. Let's see, does it? There we go. Cool. In fact, let's do the same thing kind of here. Give this whole thing a little bit of an arch. Because I want my bevels to be nice and big, I might actually select these edges. They're not really doing anything. If I hit Control X, they'll just disappear, which means I can grab these and bevel all the way into here, whereas before they would have run into those loops. So I can do that. Let's lower it a little bit. I can grab these. It's all just beveling. Now, I do want to have that flat window area, and maybe that can just be... Yeah, I think this will work, because I could make curved, you know, sheet metal pretty easily, but curved windows are a thing it took us a while to figure out, I think. Here, well, let's smooth out this bit first. Select all of these. You can hit I to inset, and then extrude it in, and I could just turn off proportional editing and hit SY0 to totally flatten it and try to piece it back together. I feel like that doesn't work very well. I might actually just be fine with the curve for now, just because fixing it seems like it could be more effort than I want to take at this exact moment. Here, we can smooth that out just a little bit too. I think some bumpers and headlights and stuff are really going to make this all work. In fact, let's make this grill bit a little wider if we can. What's the best way to do a grill, actually? I could just grab this edge loop here. And here, let's select these ones right here. Here, let's get this guy out of here. Gonna duplicate this, bring it out, extrude it up. Alt-E, extrude, faces along normals. Whoa! Okay, undo that. Shift-N to recalculate the normals, because it always extrudes out in the direction of the normals, which means we had some flips there, but now it'll all go out in the same direction. Grab this top edge and the bottom edge. Gonna bevel it. This feels like a bumper. And let's see, how do we want this grill to work? I think, what if I just pull this out kind of like that? Select these edges here. Extrude in, and all right, I want to line up the grill to be right in the center of this, and so instead of trying to hand place it, I'm going to select these two faces and hit Shift S cursor to selected, which will send go to the middle of my selection here. So if I make a cube, it'll appear right here where I want it. Let's just model one of these real quick and then see if we can propagate it, see how that looks. For moving it up, there's probably, let's see, Shift D Z moves it on the vertical axis. 0.1, that's too much. GZ 0.05, enter, and if I hit Shift R, does it? Oh no, it just keeps moving it. It doesn't do the whole duplication thing. Well, that's okay. Shift D 0.05. That's looking okay. And actually, let's put a grill kind of behind it too. I'm just gonna select all of these. Shift D to duplicate. F to make it a face, and slide it back there and scale it up. And that way we can give it like some sort of grill material also. Let's see if we can get this this to have kind of a little tire well or something going in there. With these bottom faces. In fact, let's grab these and kind of lower them down. That looks pretty cool. Yeah. Cool. So when the time comes, we could add a step or something here, so they can step up. But let's add a like a door right here. I'm just gonna mock it in with the knife tool using K. It'll open that way. Not the way we're gonna see it open. Actually, no, I guess this will be the hinge right here. Yeah, that makes sense. And as long as we stay out like this, we should have enough clearance for it to actually open. Not that we'll see it open, but I'm going to select every hard angle here so we can bevel these. And hit Control-Shift-B, and we can smooth them out like that. Maybe one more point. We can select this whole loop, then hit Control-B to bevel it, and it gives us all this geometry. If I scroll down, it's only 3 rows wide, so we can here go like that. And now I can just select this inner loop and hit Alt-S, which will move it along its normal, and that gives us a really easy way to add a little seam like this, which is nice. Yeah, let's add our window. Doing kind of the same method here. And extrude in, bevel this outer loop, smooth it all out. Yeah, that's looking okay. Here, Shift S, cursor to selection. Let's make a little cylinder. We're just gonna make a very low poly hinge. Remember, the thing about making cars is you really do have to have those little details in there. Otherwise, it just feels like a toy. There we go. And here, I'm gonna right-click Shade Smooth, and under the data properties, normals, I'm gonna check Auto Smooth, just because that makes everything look a lot better, doesn't it? I guess this groove is maybe a little bit much. I need to remember to make my my segments actually pretty thin. Let's try doing one. Let's add some more, just because it isn't hard. Control B, keep it nice and thin here. Control negative on the numpad, and then Alt S to move it, just pull it on inside. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And we'll do that a lot for this stuff too, just to make it look as if maybe we could get into this hood compartment here. Control B, Control negative, oh, Alt S. And if we wanted to be really cool, then we could hit Control plus and probably bevel that entire bit too, just to get it, you know, kind of more smooth like that. Actually, that looks pretty good. I like that technique. It actually works pretty darn well. If I smooth this out, is it gonna? Looks like this corner is a little wacky. I don't know if this is probably not particularly good topology, but that's okay. We're only gonna be seeing this truck as a blur, anyways. Here, let's add a little piece of trim up here on the top. Just gonna duplicate this. I like always just duplicating something that happens to be nearby instead of like making, you know, adding a new cube and having to line it all up, just because it's so much faster. Grab these and these, Control B, and maybe even let's pull up the nose here and bevel that a little bit. That's looking, yeah. I think adding more of these complex curves is going to be what really makes a lot of this feel real. Okay, so how do we do this tire bit? I'm gonna save. I want to give this a little bit of depth, so I'm gonna hit Alt E, just extrude along normals, and just pull it all in there, so there's a little bit of actual depth here. Which means now I can Shift E. Let's make a cylinder here, and I'm gonna try to just cut out the tires in a really quick. I should be looking at more reference for this, honestly, but I feel like this is probably gonna work okay. That. And usually I'd use the Bool tool hotkey, Control negative on the numpad. Ooh, okay, and that did work. But I have been having some trouble because the default now for the Boolean modifier is exact, which honestly, I've got beef because it seems less exact. I have problems with it more often, and half the time it crashes Blender. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe it should be like, look at this. Look, see, fast actually works better. It gives us that, it fills in the edge, and it gets rid of this other one. So I don't know what to say about that. That said, we have not been making this geometry with Booleans in mind, and so yeah, it is glitching out a tad. The cut is a little close to here now, so maybe I will just grab all of this and slide it over and fix that. Let's see that. Yeah, that still all works great. And actually, I don't like the way it's hooking under like that, so I'm going to grab all of this right here and extrude it straight down. So there we go. Now it's just chopping it nice and good. This is a little too low res because I don't know why I'm so precious with all my polygons. We all have supercomputers now, so select all of these and just Control B. Yeah, we got it nice and smooth. That's much better. And if we want to smooth this out, we just right-click Shade Smooth for that too, because it uses the Boolean settings for, you know, the cutaway. I want to fold this part in, add kind of a seam here so it wraps under. But you can, right here, it's really easy to add an edge loop, because effectively what it does is it looks on both sides and it goes, do we have 2 vertices on the left and 2 vertices on the right? Good, then this must be the opposing face, and it just keeps doing that. But if you happen to have like a face with 5 sides and it gets here, it doesn't know whether it wants you to go here or here, and so it just gives up. It just ignores that piece. And we have that right up here, so we can't just add a loop here. So I'm going to go to the rear view here, and just with the knife tool, K, I'm going to add my own geometry. If I hold down C, it'll snap to a grid here, or it'll snap to, you know, a 90-degree angle. And there we go. That was a lot of explanation for something a lot of you probably all understood intuitively, but you never know. Okay, let's see if we can add some trim here. And it would probably, should I apply, I might apply this Boolean. I might regret that in a second, but let's see. If I, because I want to add trim around all of this. If I inset, it's adding a lot of other geometry that I don't want here. Okay, so originally in the video I did this wacky thing where I selected all these faces here, and I inset, which did successfully give me a new row of geometry here that I was able to use and, you know, create the new trim, but it also gave me all this extra stuff out here, and it ended up messing up the curve geometry, and I went into end-gon territory, and it was kind of a mess. So I think a smarter way to do it would have been to have just, you know, selected the inner row of faces here, or just a row of curves, and use those to, here, we'll go Alt-E, extrude faces along normals, and just keeping everything a lot cleaner. And you can, of course, still select all those faces and bevel to smooth the whole thing out, and there you've got some slightly better trim. Ooh, okay, that does add a lot, though, that little bit of trim. Probably get the same here. Let's select this outer loop around the windshield here. Alt-E, bevel it, and actually let's grab this other loop and extrude it in, so it kind of looks like maybe that's like a place where the pine needles could collect, assuming this is a world that has pine needles. Okay, so now let's add a truck back here, or here, maybe we'll curve that out a little bit. That's nice, kind of looks like a head or something. Actually, let's add a little window segmentation here. I think they could only make pieces of glass so big in the olden days, and so anytime you can kind of like add in these segments, it's probably going to feel a little bit more accurate. And I guess I should add another window over here on this side. So we can do that real quick. Especially if I don't say everything I'm doing out loud. That's a weird shape. Is this going to be bad? It might be. Let's find out. So should be smoothing it out. Extrude. Inset. Extrude. And we'll grab this. We'll just reuse this bit from over here. Cool. Oh, and a rear window. Yes, of course. Extrude, inset, extrude, inset, extrude. That's too many insets and extrudes, but that's okay. I'm going to grab these loops here, or these corners, and Control B. Just smooth the whole thing out. That's looking pretty good. And okay, let's see if we can go a little bit faster here. Gonna go to the rear view. I'm just gonna cube some stuff in here. This will be like the rear bumper. I want it to be like a pickup bed that's also... We'll try to frame in some of the beefier stuff here. I'm suddenly realizing this is going to be a little bit too long for this one video. This is longer than I intended. I don't know why. I was like, we'll model an entire truck in like 15 minutes. Like, no, you're not. What are you talking about? Trucks take longer than that. I'm going to add an edge all the way around here. Control B, bevel, and then Alt-E, extrude along normals, just to kind of make it look like it's an I-beam type setup. Anytime you can make it not look like it's made out of just solid big chunks of metal, because metal is ludicrously expensive, and if your truck looks like it's made out of like railroad ties, it's like that car weighs 20 tons. Cool. So yeah, I want this, and then I want to have the truck bed be kind of interesting too. Let's hit P, separate it into its own object so we can work with it a little bit easier. And anytime you can work by just extruding and insetting stuff, I like to do that. So inset here just to get this loop all the way around the outside. And Ian from the future here, I'm watching this having just as much trouble as you are. I was in workbench mode, which is a bit lighter, which means the selected yellow lines are even less visible against it. So I'm going to remember not to do workbench mode in the future. I'm going to extrude that. Then I'm going to, actually, let's bring it up a little more. Inset it again and extrude that down. That's looking pretty good. Then I'm going to add some more geometry here to subdivide these side areas so that we can do more of what I was just talking about, where we kind of make it look like it's hollow. By double tapping I, so we're insetting each piece individually, and Alt E just extrude them all in. And yeah, that looks like kind of a thing here. Let's add a railing. Just grab this top edge loop if I can. Yeah. And extrude that. Maybe these will be the wooden slats. That could be good. And we'll add more variety later. Cool. I was thinking at first I was gonna have some sort of like maybe motor here to push. You know, this would be where the piston was to push the whole back up. But now I'm not sure if I actually want to do that. Likewise, I don't know if I want to like round out these corners. I think maybe I do this one. We'll imply these are metal slats, just because aesthetically I think that could be kind of interesting. Okay, so if this is where the tires are, we'd have to bring this stuff in so that the tires could actually fit inside of there. And yeah, I think that'll work good. Here, I'm gonna quickly put some tire type shapes in there. Let's make them like 24 vertices, just so we kind of know what we're actually working with here. I'm modeling the truck on an unfamiliar axis. I think I'm not, in my head, it's supposed to be rotated 90 degrees, so I keep always hitting the wrong axis when I want to move something. So this will hopefully make things go a little bit faster here. Inset. I'm just kind of trying to model where I'd want the geometry so that now I can grab it and pull it around the way that I want it. You know what I'm saying. Control negative, extrude, inset, and extrude. Yeah, that's a tire. Honestly, I probably should have modeled it to a texture, but that's okay. Okay, so in here and in the back, does that look? It looks very cartoony. Why does it suddenly look like a toy? Oh, Ian from the recent past. You want to know? You want to know why it looks like a toy? This was your favorite truck when you were a kid. You played with this thing for years in the dirt pile in the backyard. This was your mom's truck when she was a little kid, actually. This whole project is just you trying to rediscover this forgotten truck. Maybe that's what all this has been all along. Did I make something too big? Are the tires too big? Are the tires too small? Is this just how vehicles look? Having the tires a little bit smaller helps, doesn't it? Okay, we'll stick with that. I'm hitting Alt-D as I duplicate the tires so I can update one of them later and that will all update. I guess we've got more space for this piece here. Just pull that out a bit. I am just absolutely melting right now. You can probably see my hair is just very nasty. But I've been putting off finishing this tutorial for days, and so I was hoping I could just kind of push through. I'm still not entirely sure. Maybe I'll re-record it. It's probably fine. Because the next stage is going in and doing all of the fine stuff, like modeling little supports to hold up all of these, slats, modeling some random gunk here, and like the crankshaft or the drivetrain or whatever it's called. Some bits of cars I know, and others I don't at all. And then texturing. We can do we'll model a headlight. Yeah, maybe we'll just model. This won't be making a full car, because that's fine. So we'll do cylinder, 12 sides here. Bevel this bit. I'm gonna extrude it and bevel that just to make that kind of like round headlight bit. In fact, let's just inset this a few more times. Turn on proportional editing. Set it to the shape we want, sphere, so I can pull it up. And there we go. Now we have a nice kind of rounded headlight. Gonna scale this. Oop. Connected only. Scale this down and maybe smooth that out to flatten that. And if we stick this on the front of the truck, hey, this looks pretty good. What if we do 4? Is that too much? No, that is exactly what we needed to do. We'll just add a nice little handle right here too. Where would the handle be? Probably somewhere like this. Extrude. Here's the handle. Let's bevel out all of these pieces. Okay, it's not doing the corners anymore. Why is that? I didn't explain it very well at the time, so I'm going to explain it better here. If you ever go to bevel and the corners are missing like that, you just change intersection type from cutoff to grid fill, and it'll automatically fill that in, and that will solve all of your problems. Or at least that one very specific problem. The bits with the hard 90-degree angles like this drive me crazy. All I want to do is bevel them and smooth them out a little bit. And I guess I can a little bit, just to make it not feel... I guess if we're implying these are metal strips kind of wrapped around that are actually like made for this purpose, that's one thing. I was originally picturing them being like wooden slats, and wooden slats can't go around corners like this. But metal totally can. And if we're doing this, let's just, I'm going to select all the inner loops here, hit I, and you do our usual thing, extrude it out just to make it a little bit hollow. Actually, it's intersecting. Here, let's bring it in and do it again. There we go. That adds a little bit of realism here. I guess we can just duplicate this, and here we'll make a quick support. We'll just get to mostly modeled. Sorry, I feel like I have standing in the doorway like energy right now, or you know, somebody's about to go, and you're like, is this conversation almost over? And they just keep talking, and it's like, I actually don't mind you talking, but I do want to know where we stand, you know? With me saying every 20 seconds that the tutorial is basically over. I just don't have an exit strategy, you know? It's stressing me out. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Let's stretch it to be tall enough. And I guess we could add another little... Uh-oh. Here, we'll add this wraparound bit. Grab that, inset, and then I'm gonna hit F3, bridge edge loops. Okay, and it looks like we could just hit Control E and do that too, but that connects the two loops so that it makes a nice clean hole. And I'm gonna be probably texturing this a lot, so I'm making its own object so that I can hit Alt A and just edit all of them at once when the time comes. Since we do have so many instances, I like being able to add one detail somewhere and then have it like propagate everywhere else automatically. That feels very nice to me. So let's actually, let's have it fit into this little groove right here. Just have the two edges kind of hook under like that. And then, of course, you know what we're going to do. Gonna bevel all of it. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. All right. I think the last thing we gotta add is mud flaps. Yes. So we'll start with like a little frame here. I don't actually know. Sean installed some mud flaps recently, but I wasn't there when he did it. So I'm just gonna make like a little mount that kind of disappears off into somewhere. And you guys know what I'm doing now. You know, I'm just beveling everything. Here we'll make some sort of mount where they attach. These will be like the bolts on top. No one's ever going to see this particularly close. This will be the flap itself. Cool. Actually, before I do this, I want to add some more edge loops, because remember, once we give it more than 4 corners, it's not going to give us edge loops. So I'm going to do that so we can play around with it a little bit. And now, there we go. Turn on proportional editing. We'll just make it a little. There we go. That feels pretty good. I'll select these. We'll have these go all the way down to the intersect there. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Yeah, that's a good mud flap. I've never modeled a mud flap before. I like it. I still want to add some curves to some of these windows like this. Like especially right here, I've already added a lot of geometry, so it'd be hard to do it. Actually, let's see. Can we just dissolve half of it and... Yeah, we still kind of can. It's gonna make it messy. There's a lot of stuff you want to figure out at the start before you really start beveling everything, because it becomes harder and harder to work with curves once you've actually started. This looks like it has some stuff too. This whole panel is just a big n-gon, which Blender doesn't totally like. So if you ever want to fix that, just just start connecting the geometry. Make it not have to cover such a big space. And look at that, we're fixing it up already. Normally I don't worry about that as long as it's not specifically giving a rendering error. But if it ever does, again, you just do that, and that looks a lot better to me. And all right, yeah, textured it up using a few techniques I'll be talking about in another tutorial soon. I've talked about this method a lot. It's just unwrapping everything and setting it all out on the on this kind of sampler thing right here. I also did some basic image extrudes here for extra detail, which I'm definitely going to be covering in a tutorial real quick here. Let's add a little license plate actually. Stick the plane up here on the front because the little details really do add just an awful lot. Just hit U, project from view, and we'll line it up on this little bit here because this look at that. Oh, that's perfect for a license plate. Yes, it's actually already, I think it's like a train car, identifier. We'll grab another little bit here. Cool. And I think this texture it currently is when I tinted green. So we'll assign it to the other one. Yeah, that works. That works awesome. Throw it on the back too. Anyways, okay. Here, yeah, it looks pretty good in the final shot. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry, my brain was maybe a little bit warm in this heat, but I will talk to you very soon.